really soon. Just wait. Five seconds. 2, 1, live. We're live.
Alright guys, welcome to the online key store HearthStone League, where some of the best teams from the EU will be competing in a 3v3 style format. It's quite an interesting one, which we'll go into later. I am Aquablad from London Conspiracy, and joining me is Dustknocker, and you're from REG, right?
Razorset Gaming. We don't have a chance to play our match yet, but we still have a very nice match ahead of us. So why don't you talk a little bit more about it, since...
Alright, so London Conspiracy will be going up in the first game against SK Gaming, one of the most established esports organisations in the world, I would say. They've fallen off a little bit as esports has grown, but I've always remembered SK Gaming from kind of my youth as a team I looked at for Counter-Strike and stuff like that. So, but before we go into that game, we've actually had some other matches within the league. We've got some results which were played off stream, so we're just going to go through some of them. First up, we had Gamer League, which Dust commentated versus Luminicity. That was 4-8. How did that game go? How do you feel it was played by the players?
I had a feeling I casted that game with Silas, so the overall feeling that I got from those games was that Gamers League needed, if I could put it in perspective, Gamers League needed a little bit more experience, and Luminosity was, full of players that seemed to know what they were doing. Like Ignite, for example, he was very good. The way he played, he was sure about his moves, and while Gamers League put up their best, like they got a pretty convincing win with a Priest against Patron Warrior that I was very, very, very excited to see. I think that Gamers League is a very good team. They need that bit more experience, but Luminosity had that experience and very good players, and they managed to get the win.
Yeah, Luminosity has a fantastic squad, picking up Stan Sifka, who's a DreamHack winner, Ignite, another player who's been very strong, as well as Impact. I actually looked at their roster recently, and I didn't realize Miro was on their roster as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's interesting. So from then, we had H2K versus London Conspiracy. H2K, again, a very strong squad. Indran, Crane, and Sottle, very established players within their scene. And that actually went to a draw. So that went 6-6. So that was probably the first draw of the tournament. Following that was Method and My Insanity, two esports teams which have quite small rosters. Method having Max, who played at BlizzCon, Pinny, who's a very popular player from Spain, whereas My Insanity have Fake, a very good German player, as well as Mirari and Alesh, who made quite an impact on the scene recently at DreamHack. So yeah, that went 7-5 in Method's favour. And finally, SK had their first game versus Dactylian Esports, and they went 9-3. And Dactylian Esports is probably a team I'm not so familiar with. What do you know about them?
Dactylian Esports, I guess their score doesn't do them any justice. Like I don't know so many things about their players, but the thing is, in order to be in a league like this, you need to have good players, upcoming players, and I believe that as the tournament progresses, we're gonna have people talking more about them, and they will get more exposure, and we will see some guys, like we will see a certain player playing very good, or a certain strategy that the whole team follows, and we will basically get to know a whole lot more about them, because at this point we only know the really famous players. Like we know, for example, from SK Gaming, we know Zed a lot because he's a really good player, a very known, well-known streamer. But I think leagues like this are essential if you're a team that wants to get their players to be known to the world. So really excited about Dactylian Esports. I don't know so much about them, and I hope to get to see these players in action on the live stream.
All right, so today's match is actually going to be SK Gaming versus London Conspiracy. I am actually a part of London Conspiracy, so I know a lot about their players. So I'll go into them a little bit later. So just tell me about SK Gaming, the guys we got playing today.
Okay, so SK Gaming is going to use Spo, Zed a lot, and Freaky. And as I said before, Zetalot is a very famous streamer. He's a priest, not just a priest streamer, a priest player. So he's the kind of guy who is ahead when it comes to priest ideas, priest builds, and his stats actually prove that he is, if not the best priest player in the world, then, close to the top 3 players. And Freaky actually has a lot of achievements, really strong player. At the moment. So he's from Sweden, and he has qualified for the Seed Story Cup twice, and has a second place in the BlackRock Team Brawl that was hosted by Team Archon, and he has the first place in DreamHack Winter in 2014. So really good player, really stable player, as one can expect from such a huge organization like SK Gaming. And finally, Spol, which is the player I personally know the least. So Spol is a veteran player. He's the kind of guy that's up and coming, and he has been playing since beta, and he's trying to get into the big league, in the pro scene, which can be very difficult. But the rest of his teammates speak very highly of him. So I'm really excited since he. If I'm not mistaken, the first match that we are going to be seeing today against Explosive Cow, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, Spo is kind of the wild card of the lineup today. I mean, Spo, like you said, has been spoken very highly of among his team. This was before he joined SK. This was when he was in Darkstar. Had the chance to meet Airbrush at the Gfinity Spring Masters 2, and Airbrush had a long conversation about general things, and he spoke very highly of Spo, and he said a lot of his teammates who from Darkstar went to SK Gaming, they speak very highly of him too. And he's a guy you see a lot in the Gfinity Premium Cups as well, and they're always really stacked kind of cups that they have weekly, and you get players like Spo, you get people from like Dignitas, London Conspiracy, all sorts of teams. So he does work hard from the looks of it. As for their opponents, London Conspiracy, that is my team. So today we're going to have Exploding Cow, Raven, and Asmodai. Exploding Cow and Raven are UK players, and they are players that have kind of come up with me in the Hearthstone world from the very beginning. Back at the early days of my Hearthstone career, I met Alex, Raven, I met Mike and Exploding Cow. We became very close friends. We joined Team Infuse together. Then we moved on to London Conspiracy. So we've had a lot of experience together. Exploding Cow recently played in the Gfinity Summer Masters, where he got to show the world one of his interesting decks. I won't go into it because it'll ruin too much. Raven is our team captain. He's a caster as well as an event organizer. He organizes the Plantronic League. He organizes the Dingit Showdown. So he's got a lot more going on than just playing, but he's been really, really working hard on his stream, plays a lot of Hunter, and he's been playing a lot of Warlock recently. And Asmo, I would say Asmo is the up-and-comer star of one of the stars of Hearthstone. He is a fantastic player. I've been watching his stream. I've been seeing him play. His rogue play is just amazing. His
is it like Zetalot level play with Priest or something?
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so we are set for a very, a very high, a good matchup. I cannot describe it any other way. I mean, players knowing how to play decks pretty much perfectly is what makes this tournament so exciting. I can interrupt in that way. And do you know if if these guys have what's their plans? Like you can see SK Gaming plans like I'm gonna attend this tournament and that tournament, and I don't know how many tournaments this guy have to attend. But what about London Conspiracy? Like what are their future plans, just so that the people can get to know them better?
So, like London Conspiracy, we're a new sign-in. We've only been with them for about 4 months, and since then we've had appearances at Gfinity Masters. Asmo went to DreamHack. Me and some of the other guys have got in the Insomnia Gaming Festival coming up in August, which is the UK's biggest Hearthstone tournament, apart from Gfinity, which is qualifier invite based. But this is the biggest open tournament we've got. So Us guys, we're going to look to attend as many events as we can. I do a lot of casting. Casting is probably primarily the thing I'm focusing on at the moment, but I do play as well. And so yeah, we just want to get out there, get our names out there, get known, and bring the brand as much exposure and ourselves as much exposure as possible. And London Conspiracy help us do that.
I mean, it sounds like a really solid plan, actually. And yeah, and also, I'm really looking forward to this match. Do you have any predictions? Like last time, the most banned deck in the series that I got to cast was Patron Warrior. So, do you have any predictions? Like, are we going to see any specific decks from, specific players getting banned? Like, I know a lot of people talk to me about, Zetalot Priest getting banned because he's so good with it. Do you know anything about, this sort of strategies going on in the team matches?
Well, my guys have been kind of talking to themselves, which is fine. I'd rather them do that as I'm casting the event. But from what I can see, if I was them, I would ban Priest. Simply because Zetalot has so much experience with it. He plays with it a lot. It's his most comforting class. If you can take that away from one of their top players, I think that's a really good strength. But I also say on the flip side, SK can kind of do the same thing with London Conspiracy if they were to take away that rogue or even that warrior, because Asmo is also very good at patron. That could also hinder the chances of a team. You want to take away their strongest asset if you can with these bans, and I definitely think Priest for SK is their strongest asset, and Rogue or Warrior from Asmo is probably the strongest asset of London Conspiracy.
I'm asking because Zetalot, as we said before, had a really good priest player. But what happens if he has a warrior in the 5 decks, the 5 classes that the players get to pick? Do you ignore the fact that maybe you're letting him play a patron warrior in favor of getting away his priest, or you don't worry about the patron warrior, but Patron is so good right now? So that's why I'm asking, because I've gotten mixed responses from this kind of thing. Like, do you take what's unquestionably the best deck at the moment, or do you take what the other player is, most experienced with? And I don't know. I all the time I hear different opinions about this. So I'm really excited to have this conversation over and over and over again, because I think there's a definite answer to this, but we just haven't figured that out as a HearthStone community. Like, I mean, there's no universal opinion on this. So I believe this Gamers League is gonna display just that. Like, what do the teams think in this dilemma? What's more important, taking away the better deck or taking away something that the other guys, comfortable in? And yeah, so.
Well, there's another thing to consider as well in a team format. It's very different in Conquest when it's just 1v1. You can kind of cater to your lineups to whatever strategy you can, because there's no bans. But in this format where each player has to use the 5, it's 5 heroes. You pick 5 heroes for the entire team. And then your opposing team gets a ban 1, and then you're stuck with those 4 heroes for the first to 4. So what you can think about here also, let's say, why not just ban a power class? So if you just ban Hunter, mid Hunter is so strong, hybrid Hunter is so strong. If you just ban that class, that limits options for the whole team rather than, say, just banning Priest, which only targets Zealot. So that's another thing to consider. But if you don't ban Warrior and they do bring Patron and you have, say, Warlock, just play Handlock. Get your whole team to play Handlock if you predict Patron is going to be a big part of this strategy. So there's a lot of kind of like brainstorming on what you could do with your formats, but ultimately I think it'll come down to whatever team feels are their comfort picks. Whereas I don't think banning, say, particularly just a strong class to limit their the strength of their deck selection is a bad idea. It may be something like the Priest, which they might not have much matchup experience against, which may be their problem. Or they may think the Priest is just too weak in Hearthstone right now, and they might just not ban it and let Zetalot go be free with it.
I mean, you could give it a try. Honestly, I think it's a good thing to do. And I guess some of the players, the first match is already on, if I'm not mistaken. So it should be Explosive Cow versus Paul. And can you see the guys? Because apparently my HearthStone just decided to quit on me.
The thing with Spo, the one thing Spo has to his advantage is that he is not that he's not well known. I've heard his name many times, but I haven't seen him much myself, and I don't think my team has seen him much. So that plays to your advantage because knowledge is power in this game, and the more information you have on your player, the more you can cater your lineup to combat that player's kind of habits of his deck choices or his decisions. So
They're just playing with basic decks now.
If you watch Cow recently in Gfinity, Exploding Cow, you'll have a good idea what type of player he is and what type of decks he's going to bring. He always brings the same decks because he's just so comfortable with them. So Spo could use that to his advantage and say pick decks that cater to beating the lineup Cow will bring. But however, the other mind game on top of that is Cow could be thinking, well, he's going to be thinking that I'm thinking this, so I'm going to do this because he's thinking.
Yeah.
So
and you get into an endless loop, yeah. Basically, this whole thing with the mind games, like if he does that, I know that he's going to do that, so I'm going to do that. It works. I see it that way. Like if you move 2 steps ahead of your opponent, you're fine. If you move the 3rd step, you're back at square one. And yeah, it's kind of the rock, paper, scissors philosophy. Like you do not want to think too much into it. You want to stick to a strategy and, follow that strategy, I guess. And also, what else? We haven't talked about how this Gamers League is going to play out, like how to play, because the teams right here do not compete just, to win the series. You also get points for each individual win. So, do you want to talk about, how the teams earn points? Do you have any strong opinions on that?
Well, the thing with this format is because you get like individual points, your wins matter. So it doesn't matter how far. Say your first 2 players lose their games quite convincingly, it's still in your best interest to keep playing as best as you can because obviously you have the points. I actually haven't seen an overall. Here's the league table. Okay, so the league table's a bit vague for me. Through this website. Just bear with me just for a moment so I can get a general idea of what's going on.
They're live in 2 minutes.
Okay, so it looks like the individual scores of the whole set don't overall matter. It's just your win and loss and draw. So you get 2 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and 0 for a loss. So the overall points, I guess if you get 4-0'd in your first 2 games as a team, you've pretty much just lost the series. Yeah. It doesn't matter from then on. Whereas in some leagues, like more traditional football, sports leagues like football and stuff like that, goal difference, like match difference would make a difference. But as in this league, it doesn't. It's just based on points. So if you lose, if your opponent wins 7 games, you've lost.
Yeah, basically.
That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean. It sounds all confusing and difficult because it's different, but once you get used to it, it's actually a pretty good system. So basically what happens is, of course, try not to lose any games, but even if you have lost 2 games, try to win the next 2. You can still earn points for your team. Nothing, even 1 win matters. This is how we're gonna put it. You do not want to quit or anything. So I guess we should be ready to go in a few moments, guys, so bear with us. And let's say that also it is important to mention that this tournament will be going on for, if I'm not mistaken, 7 or 8 more weeks. So we still have a long way to go. And that means that even if a team gets, as you said before, 7-0 or 8-0, they still have a chance to, come back, earn some points, and still fight for, the first spot. And, that's pretty good because a lot of the disappointment from the HearthStone tournament is that you go there and you say you fly to another country, for example. Let's take an extreme example. You fly to another country and you just play 2 matches. If you lose those 2 matches, then it's over. And that's a feeling of disappointment that you do not want to have.
Going in game now.
Okay.
All right, looks actually we've got the first game coming up. Exploding Cow versus Spo, London Conspiracy versus SK Gaming. And the first deck for Cow here is going to be Mid Hunter, and Spo's got the mid-range Druid, and he's actually got a Kezan tech in there. And Exploding Cow, Mid Hunter doesn't really complement his playstyle. What he generally aims to play, but Mid Hunter is probably the most comfortable deck he has outside of his. Because okay, so Cow is a control player. He plays a lot of control decks.
Okay.
He has Mid-range Hunter is the one deck that generally isn't control for him. So and he always is the one consistent in his lineup. I find if he's not playing any control decks, he'll play Mid Hunter over everything else. So he has a lot of experience this deck. As for Spo, on his Druid, I'm not like I said, but he's still kind of a new player for us. But that Kezan Mystic's gonna make a big impact on this game.
Yeah, of course. And it's really interesting to note the classes that this guy's banned. So Explosive Cow banned Warrior, so he's going for ban the strongest class. But Spo banned Warrior, but Cow banned Warlock. So he's thinking that he can beat his opponent's his opponent's lineup, but Warriors, Warlock is a problem apparently. How do you see this this decision, the ban decision?
Well, banning Warrior is a pretty easy option. Just take out the Patron, take out that deck that can just do so well, almost off nothing sometimes. It's incredible. But banning the Warlock, I'm not really sure what Cow's afraid of. Maybe Midlock. And Midlock's just one of those decks that can swing out control so easily. And if he's playing a lot of control decks and he doesn't find those answers to deal with like the Flame Imps and stuff like that really early on, he can really struggle. So maybe he just wants to take. I think if anything, the Midlock is what he's worried about from the Warlock ban. Whereas the Warrior ban is a pretty simple analogy there. It's Patron, get rid of it.
So let's see. As Exploding Cow has the turn, he pretty much has a very nice, not really nice curve, but he has an okay curve up to this point, and he displayed the Pilot Shredder. So I do believe, and this is the difficult part, because right now Spo cannot play his Kezan Mystic, so he can either try to open up the creepers so that he can use swipe, or throw down a Shade of Naxxramas maybe. What do you think that Spo is going to do in that spot?
Exactly what you said. The problem Spo has with this board is the death rattles just make his board so sticky, and it's really hard to deal with if he just leaves them. He didn't really have much of a play there. Like you said, the Kezan Mystic wasn't going to be much use. So he needed to try and gain like board as much as possible in that situation. But the Freezing Trap does come down for Exploding Cow, and this is such a nightmare for a hunter to get that Freezing Trap stolen.
And the thing is, if somebody looks at the board state right now, he might be thinking to himself that, Exploding Cow is fine, but no, once that Kezan Mystic hits the board, things become pretty hard actually, because if I was a Spo at the moment, I would be thinking really hard to get rid of, the Hungry Crab using my Pilot Shredder at the moment. No, he's thinking of getting rid of the Stalker, which I guess it's fine, and he gets a very good one in the form of Anodized Robocab.
Yeah.
There's a Knife Juggler, and if you are Exploding Cow, your opponent has a Freezing Trap. It's turn 6, so a power play would involve Emperor Thorison, or a potential, 5-drop as a taunt that your opponent didn't have the chance to play due to the fact that you had a trap and he wanted to steal that trap. So if you're Exploding Cow right now, do you just go for the Savannah Jaime playing, trigger the trap and pass the turn?
Oh, most certainly. Jaime is such a good tempo play for him. It's a big, bulky minion. It's just a pain to deal with, and it's one of the cards that really makes this matchup good for Hunter. It was unfortunate that he did run into the Kezan there, because the Freezing Trap itself is such a big tempo swing for the Hunter if they have to run a 4 or a 5-drop into it. That's why I think Kezan's so strong against Hunter specifically, especially if they're running Freezing Traps, these mid-Hunters. But Jaime is just a bit of a pain. He might just have to slam Thorison here, and maybe go face, or just pop this up spider.
I totally agree with that, since next turn he can go for Wild Growth into Druid of the Claw into Shade of Noxramas, and set himself up for a very big turn should he happen to draw either Savage Roar, and I guess Force of Nature could still work because you can make it so that you take care of the whole high main that way, and basically try to win, with the card advantage that you have at this point. And let's see, as it's Exploding Cow's turn, and not really sure about how he wants to go for this. And
well, he does have a board clear available to him. He could use that Hunter's Mark to clear up the Forest Sun, his bow to clean up the Chasm Mystic, and he's still left with a really healthy high main, and he can even develop the board even further. So I think this is a good play for him. Deal with the board, keep the high main up, and just keep putting on that pressure.
Yeah, I guess that's pretty much the optimal play. And now, what you have to be aware of is that your opponent has reduced his whole hand. So I guess it's really hard for you to lose this game if you're the Hunter player. Yeah, if you're the Hunter player, but if you're Spo, you might want it to have something like if you had any combo piece in your hand that you would have been fine, like Force of Nature as a 5-mana spell. But Spectator backed out on me, sorry. Get back, so okay.
I think Spo just needs to play on the defensive here. Play a Druid of Claw and Taunt to take a hit from that high main, and probably keep the Knife Juggler just to stop some pressure. But the problem with his hand, he had a really good hand for the late game, but as mid hunters generally do, mid hunter just took the initiative with its early board, and so yeah, he just took the game. So the first game goes to Cow, 1-0 lead so far. Still a couple more games to go yet. Cow's hunter is no longer available. This is Conquest format, so he's gonna have to whip up another deck. As for Spo, he has a choice to change from his Druid here if he wants, but he might just stick it out. He may not want to reveal anything just yet, and maybe just try and get a win with this Druid.
Yeah, it's like this seemed like the pretty typical, mid-range Hunter versus Druid deck. Like the Druid tries to stabilize. Hunter is a tad bit more faster, since it has a lower curve. Savannah High Main is a huge problem for Druid to deal with, and yeah, I mean, it was pretty much a typical Hunter versus Druid matchup at this point. But let's
going
see.
in game now.
But let's see as we head into the next game, and Boys is gonna choose Hunter, and Exploding Cow is gonna choose his Warlock. And I do believe. What do you think of that hand?
So Cow's rocking the handlock by the looks of it. I mean, unless it's a very strange mid-lock list with some Fury Protector, this hand's looking. Maybe just keep the Owl. Yeah, the Owl's great. Can deal with the Taunted Creepers early on, because Spo is actually playing Face Hunter by the looks of it. He's got that Ward of Infiltrate in there, so keeping that Owl is a good idea. He's going to need to restrict as much damage to him as possible, unless he starts getting some Moltons, which we haven't seen just yet. But this Ancient Watcher and this Sunfury Protector might do some work.
Okay, so Spo's gonna take the first turn. He has the coin, however, he doesn't have double 2-drops. And the thing is, if you're the Face Hunter player, it's really good if you have the coin. Only problem being, you need to utilize that coin within the first 5 turns. Otherwise, it kind of gets wasted because your whole deck costs so little. So there we see Spo having the Glaive Zuka, and I guess there is merit for both playing the Knife Juggler and the Glaive Zuka, and maybe coining out Animal Companion. He's gonna go with a Juggler, which is potentially fine, since Glaive Zuka is gonna be able to take care of a potential, taunt from Explosive Cow. Generally speaking, who do you favor in this matchup? Like, any personal preference as to being on the Handlock side or the Hunter side?
I personally like the Handlock in this matchup. If it was Mid Hunter, it'd be a different story. Mid Hunter is a lot stronger against the Handlock decks. The thing that really froze the game for handlock in its favor is usually the big taunts, the Molten Giants, the Arguses that enable these watches and such like that. But the antique heal bots just swing it too much in handlock's favor generally. But it's not an unwinnable matchup for Face Hunter. It's definitely winnable. It's just can be a bit tough.
Yeah, you need your opponent to stumble a bit, like not have a heal bot, not have a taunt, not have early minions. Definitely hard, but I guess if Spo had a better stat, like he had a 2-drop stat, maybe Leopardome into another 1-drop into a Glaive Zuka, then maybe that would have been enough. But at this stage in the game, I'm pretty sure that all this favors the handlock player.
Yeah, I mean, that Molten Giant's a very good pickup for him. Even the Mortal Coil. The Mortal Coil deals with a lot of the little drops that this Face Hunter will be dropping later on. It's a shame that Cow can't really deal with this Misha, but this Misha may play a big role in his defeat if it goes on. But yeah, he doesn't really have much to play here. It's quite an awkward turn, but he is pushing for that Molten Giant.
Would you consider playing the Sun Fury Protector? Because most likely your opponent's going to ignore that. And you might be able to, to taunt that up alongside Molten Giant, for example.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's definitely the correct play. Like you said, your opponent's just going to ignore it. It's another body which will be taken by Argus here, another taunt. So, yeah, that's definitely the right play. Spo's got to make a decision here. Does he go for it, or does he hold off so these Molten Giants can't come down?
I mean, if you are the Face Hunter player, as long as you have something like heal command still in your deck so that you can bypass those big taunts, and I mean, you can go for it. Like, even if your opponent has a Molten Giant, I mean, at this stage in the game, it's fine. The problem is what happens if your opponent has 2 Molten Giants. And I guess Spo decides to go for it, and I do think he's going to be rewarded for it. Like, there's pretty much nothing that Exploding Cow can do in order to get out of it. And I think we're going to move on to the next game, most likely.
I mean, he can still technically live with an Argus play or a Molten Shadow Flame, but from Spo's hand, obviously, we know that there's no chance of him in winning this game. So Cow will probably try and figure out the best play that will keep him alive in this match. But as we know, as commentators, there's not much chance for him. So Spo's going to probably take this next game, now, and we'll tie it up. Actually, we might. No, I've still got the owl, haven't we? We haven't spoken too soon. But so they'll tie it 1-1, and that will be both hunters gone from their lineups.
Like, even if the owl was not present, you still needed to top deck a heal bot in your next draw. And
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and that is actually pretty difficult because you haven't gone through a lot of cards, so you have 20-something cards remaining. So I guess, I guess that seemed like an easy win, although it wasn't, because the Ace and Watcher into Iron Beak Owl into maybe a potential taunt is not an easy thing to get passed by if you're the Face Hunter player. Like, you have to waste damage and card advantage to get rid of that, and that if you delay a lot, then the Handlock player can catch up. But unfortunately, the Handlock player's hand was not good enough. I mean, after a while, you kind of had a Dr. Boom that was not relevant. You didn't have a heal bot, a Sludge Belcher. So players are tied 1 game apiece, right?
Yep. Another thing about the last game as well, Spo had a really powerful turn with that Wolf Rider, and he managed to squeeze in the hero power as well. He managed to do, I think it was something along the lines of 14 damage or something ridiculous like that in 1 turn. So he had all the power to make that kind of really aggressive play on that turn and seal the game. If he didn't have that much damage, he might have considered either holding off so to play around the Moltens, but Face Hunter, generally goes face. That smoke. That's what he does. He smokes all day.
So we're into the next game, and we have Druid for Spo, the Druid that we saw in the last game, against what seems to be
Carmage. So
Okay.
This deck is actually called Cow Mage. It is his
Cow
own
Mage,
deck,
okay.
which he's created, and it's a deck like it's very similar to. It's just Cow Mage.
Similar to Fatigue Mage, like Tempo Mage or some.
More ties. It's like a more control variant of Fatigue Mage, so that
Okay.
it whittles down your resources, your opponent's resources, until you basically have more health than too much health, too much board that they can deal with. So it's a bit like Fatigue Mage in that sense, but it has a couple of it has another win condition with Antonidas, and it plays more control-y cards like Water Elemental, Sylvanas, Duplicate. Doesn't run ice blocks. Runs ice barriers though, so it's its own brew, but it's done well in the past, especially in qualifiers.
Oh, okay, I mean, that's really another, another very good example of why these Hearthstone leagues, team leagues, are so, so nice to watch from a viewer's perspective. You get to see all these new decks from players that you might have not, that you might have not known about, and it's actually pretty good. Like, this is a very interesting deck. Like, this, if I get it right, combines elements that have been successful in other mates strategies, and I'm really glad to see cards like Water Elemental actually provides a lot of value. And then we see an Illuminator from Exploding Gauss. So that's you said he doesn't play Ice Block, right?
No, he just plays the barriers and he uses the
Okay.
Illuminator to heal himself back up. I mean, the last play there from Spo, he played an empty Big Game Hunter with no target, and he that was actually a really good play from him. Whether he predicted it was Tempo Mage from the Flame Cannon or whether he knew what Cow's decks are like, Cow doesn't actually play any Big Game Hunter targets in his deck. So that was either a really good read on thinking it was Tempo, it was either a really good read on Cow's lineup, or he thought it was Tempo Mage and thought he might not need it.
Yeah, I mean, it is actually really, it was actually really good. Like, I don't know how much he knew about his opponent's deck, but that Big Game Hunter set him up for for a big tempo turn, and especially, dealing with a minion that's so hard to deal with for Druid, the Water Elemental, that's pretty huge. If you're the Druid player. So at the moment, we should be in this stage of the game, like, because you know more about Exploding Chaos deck, do you know if he plays any sort of card draw, like Arcane Intellect or Loot Hoarders or whatnot?
He definitely plays Arcane Intellect. Loot Hoarders, I don't think so. Same with Acolyte of Pain. So a lot of his draw is going to come from that. Basically, the best way to put Cow's deck draws from duplicating his own minions.
Oh, okay, okay.
Because when you duplicate, basically gives you 4 extra copies of a card in your deck. So he will always, like the Fatigue Mage strategy, he'll always use those duplicates to get kind of high value minions like anti-heal bots and sludge belchers, which keep you alive. He will just wear you down until he just outvalues you completely with board and spells. And that's basically what his game plan will be.
I mean, it sounds really interesting, and there's a Loatheb coming from Spo who is just gonna do, what a druid does. And there's a crucial Sylvanas for Exploding Cow. The thing is, what happens if your opponent has, Savage Roar in his hand? I mean, at this stage of the game, if I'm Exploding Cow, I must be thinking, okay, if I play that Sylvanas, what's going to happen? And he decides it's not worth it. We might see him pinking the Panther, actually. Oh no, he's going to ping Loatheb, okay. So let's see, as it's back on Spo's turn, what he going to do right now. And also, you will see us talk more about, the decks that are not so well known at the moment, like that Mates, Cow Mates. I really like the name, I don't know. It reminds me of Magic decks for some reason. And
this Cow Mage is one of a kind. No one else plays it. Just him. It's his deck. He just built it. I think he built it around. I think it was before Fatigue Mage really took off. It was just something he was playing, which he enjoyed. Just kind of worked on it over the last kind of 6 months. So he's been playing this deck for a long time. Looking at Spo here, though, he's definitely taking the initiative here, realizing that Kao's plan here is going to be able to outlast him, so he's just putting enormous damage pressure on him while maintaining a really strong board. And that Kezen, again, is going to come into play. Maybe it'll do a lot more than it did with the Hunter, because the Kezen didn't really make that much of a difference.
I mean, I really like the approach that Spo is going with. Like, I do believe that if you have 3 guys on the board and you are playing the Druid, whatever Druid you're playing, if you have a Salvador, you might as well go for it, especially against this kind of decks. Like, you do not know when, you do not know when your opponent is going to be able to clear your board, especially going into Flame Strike turns and whatnot. And there we are going to see a swipe from Spo and the Pilot Shredder. Hero power to the face, pass the turn, and I do think that Exploding Cow is in trouble at the moment. Like, there is still another heal bot in his hand, but I cannot see how he.
Flame Strike's definitely the draw to do it.
Yeah. But okay, so he gets a shielded mini bot. He's gonna ping the shield off, but. Okay, we need to see what Spo is going to draw. He draws a Shade on Axamas, that's going to be very nice. And he will keep on attacking with his hero power and the mini-bot. Now, if you're Spo, do you consider playing the Kazan Mystic here? Or do you want to keep it until the last possible second? Like,
oh no, you definitely hold on to it. I mean, you've already seen one secret. I mean, it's fine as a tempo play if there are no valuable secrets, but being able to steal this duplicate from Kao will be a big deal because it's going to basically take away 16 points of healing and 6 points of power spread between 2 minions away from him. It's basically denying him 2 draws almost. So being able to Kazan this is going to be great. I'm really struggling to see how Kao can come back from this. The Druid has really taken the initiative here with board. He's put on a lot of damage. Spo's played very aggressively, which is what you need to do against Kao's deck. But can't Kao out just yet. Well, he needs to make a decision where he's going to play this Ancient of Law with cards or he's going to steal a secret. So he tested a secret first. So he might think it's an ice block. So he might think it's an ice block. I don't know if he knows what secrets he plays specifically. So this is a tough call for Spo here.
Like, the thing is, even if you suspect it's an ice block, you're gonna get your opponent in 1/3, so as not to give him a chance to replay another ice block. So on board with what Spo is trying to do, because even if it's duplicate, like, you checked for Vaporize and you checked for Mirror Entity by playing the Ancient of Lore. So at this point in the game, you're not worried about it. You're just probably thinking that it's ice block, as you said, but I'm guessing that you playing like that and going face actually plays around, duplicate. So pretty good play by Spo. And let's see, as Explosive Cow is gonna play Water Elemental and Sylvanas. He's gonna pass the turn back, and there we see the lethal attack actually, because it's gonna be Shade of Noxramas and Ancient of Lore. Swipe and the hero power that are gonna finish off Exploding Cow and give Paul the 2-1 lead in this series.
Yeah, that Druid did work. He did a very good mechanical way of ending that game, then playing the Kezen first to take the secret and then finishing the lethal off with the swipe. He could have just Force of Nature. He could have done a lot of ways, but that way specifically played around Ice Block, which is what he may have thought it was. He may know it's duplicate. I honestly don't know. But he does take a 2-1 lead over Exploding Kayak, SK Gaming, taking the lead in this whole series altogether right now. This is the first match of the day. So we're going to see the Warlock returning. This is Handlock from Exploding Cow going into Spo's Mage, which very much looks like Freeze Mage to me.
Yeah, it's going to be Freeze Mage and... okay, I'm gonna go with Spo again in this matchup because I do believe that while, if the Warlock player has a very nice hand, like applies pressure early with, Mountain Giants, Drakes, has, Owls and Crucial at times, it's still pretty hard to beat, to beat Freeze Mates at this point. Like, I don't know what your thoughts are on this. Like, because I obviously know Explosive Cow more than I do, so if he has a strategy going into that, basically against Freeze Mates.
Well, he doesn't know what Mage it is yet, but he'll be wanting to see those heal bots. Gonna be something once he figures out it's freeze mage, and if he's kept hold of those heal bots, and he can keep hold of them, wait for that Alex to come down and heal. But the problem with that is these days freeze mage don't even need Alex. Sometimes with Antonidas and the amount of burst they can deal, it can be a bit too much for a warlock who has to tap all the time and deplete its own health to find answers from its deck. So it can go either way. It's not unwinnable for Handlock, but I definitely put in freeze mage's favor.
Like I totally agree with that. Like the problem for me is, as you said, every time you want to use your hero power, and you do want to use your hero power, otherwise you're basically a class that does nothing. You are making, freeze mage's life easier for him, and there are some freeze